you from the Rock Cave. I'm your host, Mark Pierce. It's Monday. I know I have a case of the Mondays. I don't know about you, but hope you had a good weekend. We've been listening to Christmas music for a little while now. Don't judge. We just are there. And we love those classics. Frank Sinatra, Bing Crosby, you name it, all those guys. So that's what we listen to here in the house. Have you started listening to Christmas music? I'm good with it. What are we doing? We're going back to this week, December 10th, tomorrow. In 1967, we're hitting the 60s here, when Otis Redding died in a plane crash along with most of his band. Tragic loss in music. He was later eventually considered one of the greatest singer-songwriters of all time, the king of soul. So how did we get there? Born in Dawson, Georgia, moved to Macon. At 15, he dropped out of school, had to support his family. His father had tuberculosis, and he ended up eventually joining Little Richard's backing band, the Upsetters. And the Upsetters would, they themselves be credited with adding a little bit of funk to the music as they went on later in life, and influencing none other than James Brown. He would leave that and join Johnny Jenkins' band, the Pine Toppers. Johnny Jenkins was a left-handed guitar player. He influenced Jimi Hendrix. There was some leftover studio time at Stax Recording Studio, and they said, yeah, sure, you can, sing some stuff you've been writing. And he did, and led to his contract and his first hit, These Arms of Mine, in 1962. Great song. It would take 2 years for his debut record to come out, called Pain in My Heart. And he started touring on his own, small clubs, not crossing over yet, but eventually hitting LA's Whiskey A Go-Go, and then that heading to London and Paris in 1967 Monterey Pop Festival. Up until this point, he had hits with I've Been Loving You Too Long, Try a Little Tenderness, that was in 9.5 weeks? Mr. Pitiful, loved that song. Of course, I didn't hear that song until The Commitments. Great song. He did a version of Satisfaction of the Stones. But again, life cut short, 12/10/67, as he and the majority of his band, except for the trumpet player, plane crashed into a lake. He was only 26 years old. Let that sink in for a minute. Any picture I've seen of him, I feel like he looks older than that, and I just never gave it a thought, but I think I would have guessed he was a lot older based on his music and hits. But he was only 26, and he had just turned 26, September of that year. But the week before he died, he had recorded a bunch of music that eventually they were able to release in 3 studio albums. But the week before, he recorded Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, and everybody hated it that recorded it with him. The label hated it, the band members hated it. It was a little different direction. He certainly had that gospel background, and this was a little bit different there. He loved it. He thought it was his greatest song. Everyone hated it, and it was released in January, the next month after he died, 1968, and of course it went to number 1, the first posthumous number 1 single, the first posthumous album to go number 1 in the United Kingdom, and just an amazing record there. And then after that, among those 3 records, songs like Amen, Hard to Handle, I've Got Dreams to Remember. First time I ever heard that song, I was in college. I rented the movie Dream a Little Dream. Anyone remember that movie? Love Man, Look at That Girl. He was booked to be on Ed Sullivan and the Smothers Brothers in 1968. And of course, A Life Cut Short. Just amazing. 26. Gospel, blues, soul, rock. People who credit him influence George Harrison, Led Zeppelin, The Grateful Dead, Lynyrd Skynyrd, Janis Joplin, The Doors, of course Aretha Franklin, Al Green, Marvin Gaye. Crazy. They were able to release some of his live stuff, Monterey Pop, and some of his stuff from the Whiskey A Go-Go. A little bit of a label battle there during that whole process. Another interesting note is Barry and Robin Gibb were asked in 1967 to write a song for him to record, and they did. And the song was To Love Somebody. And Otis loved it. He was going to record it and put it out. Never did. The Bee Gees recorded it, put it out as a tribute to him, and that's a great song. We can imagine Otis Redding singing that song. So there you go. That's the story of Otis Redding in a nutshell. What do you do for song of the day? I've got Dreams to Remember is a good one. Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. What's your favorite there? I mean, do you have to go with Sitting on the Dock of the Bay? Probably. That'll be your song of the day. That was released right around this time as well. So, get yourself some Otis Redding. Pop in Greatest Hits and play that today. That's your assignment for Monday. Whatever you're doing today, I hope it involves music. And as usual, catch you on the flip side.